Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. So, this is Mystery Review 59. The hints given last week were California and swords. The final hint was 3 men, 3 cuts. And one person actually did guess it. My friend, Nokomo Girl. She guessed it, but I didn't want to let her know that she got it right yet. Anyway, the movie is indeed The Mask of Zorro. So before I get my stream going, please leave a like, comment, or leave a like, share out the stream, and whatnot. Leaving likes on the streams, folks, actually allows the algorithm to recognize my channel more. So if you can leave a like, that is great. If you can share the stream out, it also draws more people to the stream, which also brings more attention. So please be sure to smash that like button and share the stream out. It really does help more than you know. And I am trying to get the watch time up. And apparently I am 1 subscriber away from 1,100. So if I can get 1 more subscriber, awesome. Anyway, The Mask of Zorro, 1998, Martin Campbell film. A tale of tragedy, revenge, and justice. Starring Antonio Banderas, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Anthony Hopkins, Stuart Wilson, and Matthew Letscher. Now, I gotta say, I did not recognize that Matthew Letscher in this film is the same guy that played Eobard Thawne in the CW Flash when the show was actually good, when he played the real face of the Reverse Flash. I guess it's as well after the California and Swords hint, I posted a GIF. Oh, that was you, Hardwick. Sorry, yeah. All right, there you go, yeah. As a response to that Twitter post. Yep. All right, so that was you, Hardwick, not Nokomo Girl. My mistake. Anyway, yes, you got it right. So the movie starts. Now, actually, there's something that I want to point out. Movies Anywhere, which is a digital library where you can store your digital movies bought from Vudu, Amazon, Prime Video, even YouTube. You can store all of them onto Movies Anywhere, except for movies from Paramount and a few other places. But the problem is they tend to change some of the movies in one way or another. They tend to add put in the preferred version. So I actually watched this movie twice. Once on Vudu, where I have my main library, and once on Movies Anywhere. Movies Anywhere removes the opening text to the film, where Vudu actually has the opening text to the film. Now, I remember when I was young, I always loved watching the original Zorro series. When this movie came out, I was in theaters to watch it very fast. I absolutely loved it. I was 13 years old when it came out. It was a movie that I just wanted to really see to see if it did my childhood joy any justice, and it really did. But now I'm going to bring you guys a reviewer's perspective of it. So the film begins with Zorro walking on screen from a very low-lit stage, and he pulls out his sword with a flourish and then carves the trademark Z on the screen. And I love how they use the leopard roar in the explosion of the title scene to really lend the pop to the title. The film then gives a text intro. In 1821, Spain's 300-year domination of Mexico was about to end. Or a people's rebellion led by General Santa Anna, who is an actual historical figure, spread from the arid mountains of the south to the rich and fertile northern province known as California. Peasants gathered in the streets calling for the blood of the last Spanish governor, Don Rafael Montero. Although under orders to return to Spain, Montero refused to relinquish power without one final reckoning. So then we are brought into the film proper. How you doing, Jack of all casuals, Kamen Rider? Good to see you. Thank you for stopping in. Share out the stream. Leave a like, please. It does help the algorithm. So, getting into the meat. Let's see if that helps. Yeah, it gives a little bit more light. So, into the movie proper, we see a knife cutting holes into something, and then these two fingers pushing down the cloth, and you see these child's eyes looking through. And it's these two brothers, Alejandro and Joaquin Murrieta, looking out from inside of a wagon. And they're looking at the protest outside of the Spanish governor's mansion, Rafael Montero. And we see how three peasants are pulled or are tied up, blindfolded, looking like they're getting ready for execution. And it is just pandemonium, folks. It's pretty much like a riot, essentially. Now, when you see, or the people are basically calling for freedom, we also see one person come up ripping the Spanish flag down, and the Undertaker catches the boys inside of his wagon, and they ask him, do you think Zorro will come? And he's like, somebody thinks they will. And he points to a Z that's carved into the wood of his wagon. And apparently, there's no explanation as to who carved it. So, yeah. Now, he tells the boys to leave the square because, well, things are about to go down. And they get caught by one of the padres, the priests. And he tells them to get back to the mission, which is what they called the church at the time. I love The Mask of Zorro. Its sequel, not so much. Its sequel was or did leave a lot to be desired. I will say that outright. I still enjoyed it to a degree, though, but it's definitely not as good as the next one. I mean, Michael Emerson, small part. I've been watching Person of Interest, so I recognize Michael Emerson in the film of the of the Legend of Zorro. But it's like, seriously, this film could have been done a lot better. Anywho, continuing on. So we see Don Rafael appear before the crowd, and people are rush the mansion to try to get at him. He also, you catch him sniffing some freaking cocaine or some sort of drug. I mean, he's using a white glove to wipe under his nose afterward. And one of his friends and fellow Dons, Don Luis, comes in, telling him Santa Ana is coming, and he's 3 miles from the town. If he gets here, you're dead. So you got to leave here now. And then you learn that there are contracts from the Spanish government, and that the land belongs to the Spanish government but it will be ceded over to the Mexican government unless Don Rafael agrees to sign over to another Don and leave Spain, or leave for Spain. So he knows that Santa Ana will respect the Don's lands and claims of Alta California. That's what it was called, Alta California at the time. And that they will be dutiful taxpayers. So he then orders the kids out of the square or the plaza because, well, he's about to kill 3 people and whatnot. So as they see, or he actually does have a slight care. This character is like pure evil in the beginning of the movie, but he's like, get the children out of the plaza immediately. Children should not see the things we do. And you see that Alejandro is getting carried out by some sort of monk-looking figure, but you also do see that they're wearing a mask, so it kind of accidentally does tip it off really quick. So when the person drops young Alejandro, he looks up and you also see that it's Anthony Hopkins as Zorro. And and then you see him disappear in the crowd. Now, when Zorro finally appears, when the execution's about to start, you learn that this was a trap set for Zorro. Don Rafael is asked, who are these men that you would risk your life to have them killed? Who are they? No idea. 3 peasants pulled randomly from the crowd. And we then see Zorro come in, who's played by Anthony Hopkins and his stunt double, who do a great job with the acrobatics, the sword play in this film. You get a good choreography in this film with the sword play. However, there are some people who absolutely overswing with their movements. I mean, dude's head is at this level, and you're swinging like this, like way up here to get the person or to try to get the person. So yeah, there is some choreography issues in the film. So the boys are on top of the roof to try to get a better viewpoint of Zorro, and they end up saving him by dropping a statue or by pushing a statue on top of some hidden soldiers that Raphael was going to use as a trap. However, it didn't work, so they all jumped out and Zorro saved by the boys. And then Zorro cuts free the 3 peasants that were going to be killed. And I love how in one way he's just using his sword. He's like, just blocking, and then he uses his sword to drop himself from the hangman stand. This movie just has such great swashbuckling action and swordplay. I really love this film. So then when Zorro disappears into the crowd and then goes up to the boys, my thanks to you, gentlemen, and he gives Joaquin his silver medallion with the circular design. And he's like, now, if you'll excuse me, I'm missing my own party. So he drops down. Now, one of the things I do like about this is that they got the cape right. This movie has very little, if none, digital effects when it comes to the film itself. I mean, maybe there's a little bit of a digital rendering here and there with background or whatnot. However, when it comes to practical effects, this movie does practical effects very well. I mean, when he drops down, his cape billows up perfectly. His cape billows very well in certain scenes. It really is done well. Yes, Cannoli Sasquatch, good to see you. It's a very solid, fun movie. Now, are there problems with it? Absolutely. There are problems with it. A little bit of bad writing here and there, plus a couple of choreography mishaps, as I mentioned earlier. But for the most part, it's very good. So we then see Zorro catch up to Raphael on the balcony, and he's like, you'd kill 3 innocent men just to capture me? I would murder 100 innocent men if it meant killing you. So he carves a Z right into Raphael's neck. 3 men, 3 cuts, a small memento of Mexico. Raphael, to remind you never to return. And so he then calls his faithful steed, Tornado, and he rides off up the stairs of a building, giving his horseback and his raise of a sword. James Horner's score in this film is absolutely beautiful. It's repetitive, but it is so beautiful. And it really does fit the narrative of the film. The narrative of the film being a very romantic yet action-packed film. And when Zorro rides off, you see Joaquin and Alejandro checking out the medallion that Zorro gave them. So upon returning home to a beautiful hacienda, I mean, this is basically a Spanish or a Mexican Batman. Let's just face it. This is a Mexican Batman. He has a freaking fireplace that opens up in the back where the fireplace slides to the side, and underneath his hacienda is his lair, is Zorro's lair, where he has Tornado's stable, the training room, all of it. He is essentially the inspiration of what Batman became. I mean, I don't know who came first, Zorro or Batman, in licensing and story, but I'm pretty sure it was Zorro, because Zorro was, I believe, a folk tale before Batman ever came along. Funny enough, Batman was inspired by Zorro, so full circle. Yes, there you go. So yeah, he comes in and he sees the nanny tending to his baby daughter and asks if she's warm enough, and she says, "I leave an extra blanket just for you, sir." And then she walks off. And you also see Esperanza out looking at the sunset, and just as a shadow walks by one of the doors, she's fully focused on the sunset, but once one of the shadows moves, she turns around and sees the shadow immediately, and it's like, how the hell do you know, woman? But yeah, she goes, or Zorro came in the early 20s, Batman early 40s. Nice. Okay, there you go. So yeah, it seems that there you go. I mean, there are actually a lot of parallels between Batman and Zorro if you think about it. Zorro was a servant of the people who did what needed to be done in order to save people. Batman is no different. Batman is more violent in his methods. I will admit that. He beats criminals to pulp with their bare hands and whatnot. But he did what was needed because it needed to be done. Same with Zorro. And they both yearned for a time where Zorro would no longer be needed. But they would continue being Zorro if they needed to. So he's telling his story to his baby daughter, where she's smiling up at him and listening to the sound. You also see the flowers that are laid by her bed, or by her crib, which are called Romania, which is a point later in the film, which is used. It's a good plot device. This movie sets up the pacing and sets up later points very well. Obvious to a point, but also enough to let you know what's going on. I consider The Mask of Zorro to be a part of a trend of the 90s movies that feel like throwbacks to the golden age of Hollywood. The Rocketeer, Dick Tracy, The Shadow, The Phantom, The Mummy. Well, Zorro was also a show before it ever became a movie. Then there was also the movie The Mark of Zorro, before that even. Antonio Banderas and Anthony Hopkins were the latest Zorros. And now they got this SJW one that they got coming out, which I absolutely have no interest in. But anyway, continuing on, he's telling the story, and then Esperanza's there, and you see the chemistry between Anthony Hopkins and Juliette Rosen, I believe. Julietta Rosen, who plays Esperanza. And there really is a nice, palpable tension, or not tension, but chemistry between them. And Anthony Hopkins as an actor is just very perfect in this film. I mean, yes, a lot of people would be like, well, he's not Hispanic, so why is he Zorro? And yes, while whitewashing is a problem, as is any sort of race swapping, his action in this film, I do not really see too much of a problem with it. yes, it's slightly hypocritical. I risk sounding like a hypocrite to say that, but yeah, I enjoyed this movie even with Anthony Hopkins as as the first Zorro, Don Diego de la Vega, but that's actually something that's different from the normals, is which his name was Don Diego Vega, not Don or Della, or DE then space LA. So yeah. As he talks with her, she's like, she's already got your strength. Today she broke the little clay horse you made for her. And then she grasps her husband's arm, which was a scratch that he got while fighting in the square. And she said, you promised me no more long nights hoping you'll come back alive. And he says, the Spaniards are going home. Today was Zorro's last ride. This is my favorite Zorro movie for me. And It and the Guy Williams Show are tied for best Zorro. Exactly. Now, I will say George Hamilton played one hell of a good Zorro in Zorro the Gay Blade. That's also a fun movie that I like watching, especially when he's wearing all sorts of different color costumes. And Colonel Puff Puff. But anyway, as they start kissing, Raphael shows up. Doesn't even address Diego. He's like, Doña, which means the wife of a Don. Doña de la Vega, still as beautiful as ever. And so he addresses Don Raphael. He's like, Don Raphael, what a surprise. The governor in my home. You'll stay for dinner, of course. I've come to apologize, Esperanza. He's completely ignoring Diego because he knows why he's there. He knows who he is. And he's always had a thing for Esperanza. He hates Diego de la Vega for having Esperanza when Esperanza should have been his. And he immediately proves it. I'm sorry that I couldn't protect this country from the peasants that have overrun it. I'm sorry I couldn't make you love me. And I'm sorry I have to leave you without a husband. And he calls for Diego's arrest. And then he grabs the arm and forces the cut open to leave a blood stain on his arm. Blood never lies, Zorro. You're a traitor to your country and your class. And then after he's called to be taken away, this is when the fight ensues between Raphael and Diego. Now, like I said, the choreography for the sword fights in this film are just that good. These actors took a few months to really get the sword play down. Nowadays, if I was to use the same sort of sword play and whatnot, I'd probably sprain my freaking wrist out of sheer overuse. My wrists don't bend as well as they used to. But yeah, I used to pretend to be Zorro when I was a kid. I always used to carve the Z's and do all that stuff too. So yeah, we also see that his soldiers there that are acting as the law are ready to shoot at Zorro at any moment. I mean, when Zorro locks blades with him after scoring a shoulder stab or shoulder lunge right here and hits Raphael in the shoulder, which he does 20 years later in this film. He then gets sliced in the side, and somebody tries shooting at it, or one of the soldiers tries shooting at him, and the baby's now awake. More sword play. Candles fall, starting a fire, and Esperanza tries getting to her husband when one of the soldiers pulls a pistol and shoots at the dismay of even the governor, Rafael Montero. And when Rafael Montero looks after or seeing her shot, he goes right up to the guy that shot her and just stabs him. Back when movies were made just to entertain. Exactly. I didn't give an F when the movie came out. It was Anthony or if Anthony was a Spaniard or not. The movie was fun. That's all that matters. Exactly, Jack of all casuals. It technically, yes, people can claim it was a race swap. But back then, it wasn't too much of a problem. It wasn't too much of a thing. People didn't care about it. Nowadays, well, it has become a thing. Too much of a thing. But if you are going to call out one part of it, you do got to acknowledge that it was a thing back when we enjoyed movies as well. So yes, I am going to maintain some consistency here. So, Esperanza ends up dying from the gunshot, and he tells her, he looks down at Diego and he's like, I never would have let any harm come to her. And he tells him, she was never yours to protect. And he goes to check on Elena because he still hears her crying, and Raphael knocks him out and tells him, I want you to live knowing that you have lost everything you hold dear. I want you to suffer as I have suffered, knowing your child should have been mine. And so we then are cut to the outside. Diego's in chains in a jail wagon, screaming for Elena as he's watching his hacienda burn. And Raphael comes out holding her in a shrouded in a blanket because it's pouring rain. And he's like, let me hold her. Let me hold her. Raphael. She has her mother's eyes. And then he takes off, and Diego leaves that one very solemn promise. You will never be rid of me. And so we see 20 years later, it does the jump ahead that the Murrieta brothers, Joaquin and Alejandro, played now by Antonio Banderas, they're getting dragged along by this guy, Three Finger Jack, played by J.D. Lewis or something like that, an older actor. And he has these two fingers are off on his right hand or left hand, one of the hands. And he's singing and whatnot. He's like, cause nobody's tough as Jack, and nobody's tough as Jack. And he's like I done told you, singing will lighten your terrible load. And so he brings them into a fort, or a small little outpost fort for Don's military. And they're going to get a bounty. Well, Three Finger Jack is. And he's like, mind if I see what, or may I, sir? And pulls the thing. It's like and Jose Perez, who plays Armando Garcia, the corporal, is just this little annoying little shit, man. But he plays it so well in this movie. He's like, these men are now under the custody of Corporal Armando Garcia, and we will take them the rest of the way, and you can claim your bounty in Glasgow. Yeah, when bulls start wearing bloomers. And they find out that they're worth 200 pesos for the both of them after all the payrolls they've robbed. And it's like, don't take it. And then they find out that they're hustling. That Three Finger Jack is also part of the hustle. He's not bringing them in. He's there to rob the frickin' outpost and the horses. And it's a nice little hustle, and they start running off, and then they get caught by Matt Letcher. After leaving the military boys tied up naked to a cactus where their hands are tied up and they're all standing around the cactus, but they can't move because if they move anywhere, they're going to get poked. And they're butt naked, too. You can see the tans and everything. And whatnot. So then they get caught by more competent military with Captain Love, played by Matt Letcher. Yes, Captain Love, Love. And he has this big ass pistol that's, well, about, I mean, this is a cane, folks. This is not a real gun. But it's about, or falls to about this length of barrel, and he goes and he shoots Jack as he jumps off the wagon, and then he follows the brothers running, and he shoots Joaquin in the ass, and whatnot. Hey, cult classic, Cassie, how you doing? It's always a pleasure to see you in here. Thank you so much for dropping in. Make sure you leave a like and share the stream out if you can. It helps the algorithm. So Joaquin gets shot, and he punches his brother to basically tell him, go and live. Well, Alejandro runs off, and Joaquin ends up shooting himself rather than getting caught, you know? And then, we see that this man, Captain Love, has a rather sick and twisted way of life. He comes down, pulls his sword, slices off Joaquin's head. You don't see the head come off, but you see the medallion that they had from Zorro fly off bloodstained, letting you know what happened, essentially. And he tells his soldiers, bury the body, bag the head. And we then see that he has gone to meet a boat with the bloody bottom bag. I mean, this movie does a great job at selling what needs to be sold in this film. You know what's in there. It's the head and whatnot. And then we see a small cut back to Alejandro picking up the medallion, clearly sad that his brother has been killed, but also angry too because his brother has been killed. And then we're down in a very dank cave-like prison, and the guy is talking in his sleep and gets water splashed onto him, and it's Don Rafael. Now, there is a deleted scene where you understand the incompetence of the prison. He's like, I'm not very good with names, sir. And he's like, Diego de la Vega, he would have been here, he's been here for 20 years and whatnot. And he's like, well, a lot of people die in here, man. Or Don Rafael. He's like, this one wouldn't have. He would have made it very hard he would have made it his personal mission to die slowly, essentially. And so they go in, and that's basically why Raphael is returned, to make sure that Zorro is in fact dead. And he's walking amongst them, his face covered because he's around sickly peasants and whatnot. I'm surprised they left the medallion. Everything was gold or silver back then. Indeed, but there was military did have a sense of conduct. You do not take war trophies to a degree. Unless you are an officer, essentially. So he's looking at him, and he goes back to look at another one, and then he's looking at the right one. It is Anthony Hopkins there, underneath that long beard, long hair, and a cloth that covers his eye like this. About this much. But before he can get a really good look at him, the warden comes up, and he's like, if any of you has ever been that masked man all dressed in black known as Zorro, reveal himself now. And everybody's claiming to be Zorro because they know it's going to be a quick death if they do. I'm Zorro. No, I'm Zorro. No, I'm Zorro. They just all want to die because it's freaking torture there, man. That's how bad the prison was, you know? These people are wasted away. Except for Anthony Hopkins, who has been seen to have been eaten well in that in that prison. But anyway, so they all go after Raphael, and he ends up getting down there. It's like, did you find him? He's dead. Let's get back to the boat. I need some sleep before the landing tomorrow. Well, also, we see that one of the people who claimed to be Zorro was getting led back to their cells. The dude's thrown up against the wall, smashes his face against the wall, and ends up dying. Well, also, Diego was there, he's in the cell up or next to him, and one of the guards is like, "Get him out of here before he starts to stink." Now, or as the other guy's leaving, Diego grabs the dude and chokes him to death. Grabs his keys, but they're not the right keys for the leg chains. So he pulls the guy in and takes his powder packets of gunpowder. And I love how he pours it into the lock, down to a small rope for a fuse, lights it with the knife, and he ends up busting out, replacing himself with the body or the dead body so that he can get out of there. Now, one thing you will hear a lot in the sound of certain motions, certain actions, and whatnot is a leopard snarl, that "Row" kind of thing. I can't do it as well as I used to be able to do it, but you'll hear it a lot when he stabs, or they bury him, or they put him in the ground and bury him. When he stabs out, you hear that same big cat snarl, and he ends up escaping. So then we get to the landing, and Raphael meets with all the Dons, and he's like, "Don," or he says his hellos and whatnot. Well, we also see that De La Vega is there, and he's trimmed up. He's looking a little bit better. He has the white shirt from the guard, and he's looking less worse for wear, or less worse than what he was. And he's moving around through the crowd when Montero's addressing the crowd. And Montero's just, this is how evil the man is. He's like, "Oh, please, I know you're not happy to see me. You honestly think I don't know that you haven't been paid or threatened to be here to greet me?" And then he goes on playing to the crowd. He's like, he's like, "Why should you be happy? The Spaniards oppressed you, the Mexicans ignored you, and the Dons. A class of which he is, by the way. He turns to the Dons, who he just happily greeted and whatnot. The Dons saw content to cheat and lie to you." And then he looks back at the people. "So I ask you, who in your entire history has ever helped you?" "Zorro!" And he hears that name with just such distaste, and he's like, "Oh, yes, Zorro. Where is he now, Padre, your masked friend?" As from what I remember, he hasn't shown his face in 20 years. And as he says, "Where is he now?" you see Zorro pass right in front of the Padre who called out Zorro's name. And so you then see that Montero's just planning it up for the people, saying that we are going to be a free, independent republic from Mexico. I'm going to not turn my back on you like I did before. I will lead you all into a better way of life, essentially. Well, Diego is now down really close to him and starts to go toward him until he hears a voice call out, "Father." And then he sees his daughter, 20 years old, and grown up. And so he's like, "I can't kill this man right now." That is something that I really love about this movie. He understands that he can't, or that if he does certain things at certain times, it's only going to be worse than what it was. With Elena now at the landing, he can't exactly just kill him. He now has a reason to live again. His daughter is alive. And Anthony Hopkins, the way that he plays these roles, he's played so many roles in the past and whatnot. He does them all so well. He's a classically trained actor. And when he also emotes very well through his eyes. And when he sees Elena, he realizes, "Oh my God, this man has stolen everything from me." You know? While the sword fighting in the movie is good, the sword fighting in the Mark of Zorro is even better. Tyrone Power and Basil Rathbone were amazing fencers. Yes, indeed he was. or they were rather. And we then see our woman give her some flowers, which is the Romagna, and she's like, "Can anybody tell me what this flower is? I know this scent." And it's explained to her, and it's like, "But it only grows on the shores of California, and I believe this is your first visit to our shores." Oh yes, but she still remembers this scent. This is a clever setup from early on when the flowers were in her crib. Hopkins is so good. It's a shame he never won more Oscars when they meant something. Indeed. That is indeed Jack of all casuals. So we then see in a cantina, Alejandro's getting drunk. And he wants more whiskey. Well, he doesn't have any money to get more whiskey, so he pulls out the medallion. And, well, somebody else sees the medallion and starts to move at it with his cane. And he's like, "Where'd you get that? None of your business. Where did you get it?" "It was my brother's. He's dead. I'm sorry." "Why should you be sorry?" "You shouldn't trade something like that for a mere glass of whiskey." "Why not? Think I could get two?" And then he sees Captain Love roll in, and he's ready to go after him. After this stranger's like, "Who's that?" "That's the man who killed my brother. You're drunk and you're angry. You're in no position to fight it, or you're in no condition to fight a professional soldier." "Out of my way, old man." And he just starts carrying him by the neck into an out of sight area and shoves him against the wall. Well, this ensues the fight between Anthony Hopkins and a very drunk Alejandro Murrieta. And he gets his clock cleaned by a crippled old man with a cane. And he disarms him perfectly. And he's like, "Would you care to try again?" "No." "You're welcome." "For what?" "For saving your life." "I would have killed him." He's like, "No. He is trained to kill. You seem trained to drink." The dialogue in this moment, in this film, when Anthony Hopkins speaks, you listen. He delivers his lines so freaking well. And he tells him, he's like, "You seem trained to drink." "Yes, my friend, you would have fought very bravely and died very quickly, and then who would have avenged your brother? I would have found a way. I've never lost a fight, except to a crippled old man just now. Now, if you want to kill this man, I could teach you." Or before that, he's like, "What's your name?" "Alejandro." "Alejandro." Now he remembers exactly he knows who this boy is, who this man is. And he's like, "Alejandro, there's a very old saying, when the pupil is ready, the master will appear. Now, if you want to kill this man, I could teach you how to think, how to move, how to take your revenge with honor and live to celebrate it. But it will take dedication and it will take time. Why are you so eager to help me? Because once, a long time ago," and he motions with the sword, pulling out the medallion, "you did the same for me." He's repaying an old debt, but he's also using Alejandro. Make no mistake, Diego is using Alejandro. It's very clear. I can use this man for my own ends while also creating a new generation of Zorro. And so he brings him to the lair. Hold on one moment. Sorry, I'm back. Just had to see what was going on out front. But anyway, so he tells him, he's like, "Yes, this place was dedicated to the training of Zorro." "Well, where were you all these years?" "I thought you were dead." "I was dead, and we will leave it at that." So they go over the plan. And he's like, "I remember the last time I saw you in the square fighting off 100 men. 100 men. Yes, you were the greatest swordsman who had ever lived." I mean, this is a childhood fantasy come true. Alejandro is meeting his childhood hero, but he also learns it's not as easy as all of that, or Rafael Montero, or all of this is real life. You can't just pretend it as a kid that everything's going to be all right. This is now your grown-up hero, but he has a purpose. And he tells him, he's like, Montero was the sworn enemy of Zorro. Well, Montero's come back. Well, good. Then you can kill him. No, there are complications. Too many complications for me to ignore. What complications? And then he tells him, well, Montero has a design for California, and we're going to stop it. And he's like, and then what then? Well, if we're ready, we'll both tempt our fates. That's good. So he pulls his sword. He's like, do you even know how to use that thing? Yes. Pointy end goes into the other man. This is going to take a lot of work. Folks, this training montage doesn't really come across as a montage because montages usually do what's known as fade conversion into it, or fade shots. They fade into each other. This doesn't do that. This actually does solid cuts to different moments in the training. And I love how when he is going to do a little bit of sparring with him, and Anthony Hopkins has trimmed his mustache and his little soul patch down here back to what he looked like back when he was younger, but with longer hair. And you see Antonio Banderas pulls his sword, does a lot of flourishing and whatnot, and then he's like, and then Anthony Hopkins just smacks the sword right out of his hand. It's the GIF that I created for the post that I posted when I went live on Twitter. It's the same GIF where he pulls the sword, he whips it around, and then comes in. Slow. Attack, slow. Attack, slow. And you see the progression of the training. So when he does the first moment to the next moment, attack. And then you see how he's doing well. And you see him doing the push-ups over candles with Diego's legs resting on him. You see him doing the drills with the whip, and then he gets whipped for doing an over lunge. And he gets whipped twice for doing it. And then he attacks him, and he's like, lesson number 1, never attack in anger. Lesson number 2, come with me. So he's giving him a bath and cutting his hair, trims him up in the front. So what's lesson number 3? To get to lesson number 4. So then we see the last bit of training with the sword. Now, I should go back to the beginning of the training because it is important. I did kind of gloss over that when he tells him this is a training circle, the master's wheel. This circle will be your world until I tell you otherwise. There is nothing outside of it. Capitan Love, there is nothing outside of it. Captain Love doesn't exist until I say he exists. As your skill with the sword improves, you will progress to a smaller circle. And he points to the medallion. With each circle, your world contracts, taking you that much closer to your adversary, that much closer to retribution. I like that part. So then at the end, or now that I got that out of the way, back at the end of the training, he takes off his training vest and he fights him in earnest. And he disarms him. Again. So then they're out looking for a horse. They got the skill, now they need the horse. Well, they find a black Andalusian that is very wild-hearted and very not mild-mannered, more hot-mannered. And he calms the horse down, and you see Corporal Garcia again. He's the one leading these horses in to be horses for the military. And there's a deleted scene there where he actually saves one of the Dons, and all the while he's moving his hands around, but you don't see what he's doing. He's picking their pockets. He's like, what if the Don recognized you as a thief? He's like, oh, I don't think that would have, or I don't think they would have recognized me at all. They don't really they don't really look much at us. And he's like, all that for 1 peso. 1 peso. He pulls the freaking wallet. He pulls the freaking ring. He pulls the freaking stopwatch of the Don. He's like, you're a thief. And you see that Alejandro's like, he's like, and or a very good one. So it's like the last second you deliver, he says, a very good one. Because how do you think they got the funds needed to catch the horse, get a new saddle, to make him look proper and whatnot? Well, you'll also see later on that, or in another deleted scene, these are unreleased deleted scenes, mind you. Diego's taking all the trinkets from his cave, all these silver, brass, and trinkets, and candlesticks and other stuff. And he's like, what are you doing? Trinkets. We need food and water. He sells them off. He barters and whatnot. So that's essentially, without saying really, he didn't, or wasn't in the film, so it really didn't need to. So the night of the raid to catch the horse, he puts on a mask cut with 2 holes in it, and he puts on a cape, and he's like, Zorro, you look better than ever. He's like a roughshod Zorro. And he sees Elena. Elena's riding in, and she's kind of taken with him. He's like a dashing rogue, thought he was a bandit. And he goes into the barracks. Well, he tries to get the horse, and he's like, listen, I'm giving you the great honor of being my horse. And the horse is excited. It's like, okay, yeah. This horse starts leaping, jumping all around when he kicks to get the horse to go. And it alerts all of the soldiers who are off duty and whatnot. And they all go, and they see that, or the horse makes a huge mess, and the horse bursts through the wall, leaving him behind. And it's like, or you see all these soldiers just like, really want to kill his ass. And then you see the little guy, Garcia, again. Get him! Tornado, the magnificent beast. Yes, the Black Andalusian tornado. And so this fight, man, this sword play, the fights, you see some choreography misses again, where the dude is slashing up here when he should be slashing down here. Like at this level, he's slashing up at like this level. But for the most part, the choreography is solid for the most part, other than a few miss swings, shall we say. And I love the bigger guard where he catches him, shakes his arms to get him to drop the sword, and then he turns around and just, what the hell? It gets thrown away, and then he's like, get him. So the guard grabs him again, and he has 2 cannonballs behind his back and starts cracking him against the dude's face. And I love the sound effects. They do a really good job using comedy in this film, where there's so much comedy in this film, folks, but it's all done in the right way. It gives you a laugh, and then it continues the moment to go to something else that can make it more serious. So when he's but in this moment, you're getting a lot more of a fun laugh out of it, where when they show the bottom where it shows the guy's face getting smacked, you hear a resonating echo of the impact with the cannonballs right here. And then it shows Banderas doing it, and cracking him multiple times. And then it goes back down with one final smack with back to the resignation. When it's up showing Banderas doing it, you don't hear the same noise. You hear the same, or you hear impacts, but you don't hear the same noise. So then the guy turns and just spits out all of his teeth and is knocked out. And then everybody looks back at Zorro, who's got a lit torch and a cannon. And he's like, and everybody's like, get the hell out of the way. Bad case of lead. Yeah. Right? Bad case of lead mouth. Well, whatever cannonballs were made, what were cannonballs made of? Honestly, that is a good question. What were cannonball made of? Allegheny Arsenal continued producing 4 types of cannonballs: solid iron balls, cluster or cans of small iron or lead balls known as case shot, grape shot, or canister exploding iron balls filled with lead shrapnel. Wow, this was back then, man. Or pirate cannonballs made out of canvas bag filled with iron or lead. Yeah. So it's mostly iron or lead that these things were made out of. So, yeah. The more you know, right? So, he's like, Zorro, the legend has returned. Throws the torch. Well, the torch also is close to a gun or to a powder stack. And he's laughing maniacally until he sees it. Then he grabs the barrel before the burning powder reaches him. And he's walking around. He's happy. He's like, okay, stop that for a second. He sees he picked up the powder backwards, and it's just coming behind him. So he's running out of there, and the whole place just goes up. Now, this is where they actually didn't add big cat snarls in the explosions, which I'm kind of wondering why they didn't. But it's still a magnificent explosion. So he's going into the church for sanctuary, and the padre there is the same one just 20 years later. And he's like, Padre, or don't yell. I need sanctuary, Father. You don't know me. Zorro? Of course I know you. Zorro, is it really you? I must say, the years have been far kinder to you than they have been to me. He's like, sorry, there's no time to talk now. Please, Father, hide me. So he puts him in the confessional. Well, guess who was also there for confession? Elena Montero. And she's like, sounds like there's a battle going on out there. Don't worry, my dear. You're safe in the house of the Lord. And she's like, so she begins her confessions. It's been 3 days since my last confession. 3 days. How many sins could you have committed in 3 days? Come back when you have more time, please. Excuse me? Listen, senorita. And then he sees who she is. Please, go on. I've broken the 4th commandment, Father. You kill somebody? No, that is not the 4th commandment. It's like, of course not. In what way do you break the most sacred of commandments? 4 commandments most sacred? Okay. But anyway, I dishonored my father. That is not so bad. Maybe your father deserved it. What did you say? I mean, tell me more, my child. And so she tells him that she had impure thoughts about a man. And I just love how Antonio Banderas, he's like, oh, to kind of add to the moment. It's like, oh, how dare you? You know? And so she's like, I did. I thought he was a bandit or something. He wore a black mask. Deep voice? Yes. Ruggedly handsome? I don't know. His face was half covered. And so she describes how she felt warm, feverish, lustful. Yes, lustful. Forgive me. I forgive you. It's like, yeah, I forgive you. It's a great scene. And then it's just a return to the evil that is Captain Love coming in. Check everything. The rectory, the loft, all of it. Well, then the priest is like, this is the house of God. Don't worry, Padre. We'll be gone by the time he gets back. It's like, really? What an asshole. And so, you see Elena coming out, and Alejandro tells her, he's like, Senorita, the only sin would, or you've done nothing wrong. The only sin would be to deny what your heart truly feels. Now go. And so she leaves and whatnot, thinking that she's been absolved. Well, then Captain Love is like, Elena, what are you doing here? I was confessing. Confessing? To whom? The priest is here. And then he realizes, oh, stand back, Elena, please. Uses his gun, shoots the damn confessional booth, and realizes that there's nobody in it, sees that the top has been carved out. Out of respect for Miss Montero, I'll deal with you later. Seeing or talking to the priest who was next to Miss Montero, and it's like, oh boy, what is going on, you know? So, he's escaped. He finds the horse snacking on some grass and some hay. He's like, horse, get over here, no! Blackie, thunder, storm, stupid horse, get over here! I'll warn you, I'll get another horse. This horse is like thinking to himself, you think I give a shit? Interestingly, both Anthony Hopkins and Catherine Zeta-Jones are Welsh. Zeta-Jones has played Latinas in multiple movies despite not being one because of how much she looks like one. Yes, indeed, Hardwick. Good. That's a very good point. Among morning. How you doing, Price Right? Good to see you. So he's like, and then he thinks, whistles to get the horse to come, and the horse comes. I was like, okay, come on. And one of the things you won't, or I read about, I don't know if it is true or not, is that Antonio Banderas did most of his stunts in this, except for one major stunt. Now, I don't know if that's true, but it really is great. He's like, and then he jumps off the top of the building, and the horse just goes forward. It's like, you're out of your fucking mind. And you see him just crash down. And then looks up, and the horse whinnies at him. It's like, I mean, you could just hear that that's the purpose behind the horse in that whinny. And so he gets up, and he carves a Z in the wall, gets back to the lair, where Diego is using the whip to put out some candles, which is actually pretty good because his stunt double taught him how to use the whip effectively. So he actually thought of doing it in this scene. And he's like, so what do you think? He goes back to whip, and he's like, sir, I got the black stallion. I carved a Z in the quarter. And he's whipping it again. He's like, sir, people will be speaking the name of Zorro again. You think stealing a horse and scratching marks on the wall makes you worthy enough to wear that mask? And he whips the mask, like cuts it right here, so it's off of his face. He's like, be careful. You're a thief, Alejandro, a pitiful clown. Zorro was a servant of the people. He was not a seeker of fame like you. Whips again, cutting off the cape. A buffoon. And Zorro did what was needed, and now he's needed again. I didn't ask for your help in the square, but I came here to learn how to fight like you, to have the courage like you. And then when I try to use them, you slap me down? Well, I tell you, I'm tired of your lecturing, your training, all of it. I thought I could, or I have my own scores to settle, a new life to find. I thought I could find them here. I was wrong. So we get to the point where the hero is just sick and tired of the training. It's just nothing but training, man. When am I going to be able to do something that matters, you know? And then he tells him, on guard, as he's walking off. Alejandro, on guard, choose your weapon. So he grabs his sword, thinking it's going to be a fight. And he flourishes up his sword. And he lifts up a spoon. And now Alejandro's looking kind of real stupid. So he's like, Raphael is having has invited every Don in California to his hacienda. If you want to be of service, you can join them as a spy. I do not understand, sir. You have skill, Alejandro, or you have passion, Alejandro, and your skill is growing. But in order to gain Montero's trust, there's something that is completely or I need to teach you something completely out of reach. Oh, yes? And what is that? Charm. And what is that? He's like, if you can convince Montero that you're a gentleman of stature, he will let you into his circle. Me? A gentleman? This is going to take a lot of work. I mean, Antonio Banderas delivers that line so freaking well. And he's like, Anthony's like, yes. Now, we don't see that training montage of how to be a gentleman, but in short time, he teaches him to dance. He teaches him to waltz. He teaches him to do a very exotic dance somehow because, well, later in this next scene, he also teaches him how to talk and think and do all the gentlemanly stuff. So we get to the party, and he's like, look at me. I look like a butterfly. What if Montero realizes who you are? Montero considers himself a true nobleman. He'll never look a servant in the eye. And then he tells him, or they go in. He introduces himself to Montero, pretending to be Don Bartolo El Castillo, or Don Alejandro El Castillo, son of Don Bartolo, who, conveniently enough, Don Rafael has not met. So he's trying to be charming, and he's like, I'm here, I just recently arrived from Spain. The Queen speaks very highly of you. Really? I was under the impression that I have lost favor with the Spanish court since Mexico or California was lost to Mexico. And, well, okay, that's not good. So he leans in and tells him, only in certain circles. Her Majesty knows those unfortunate events were no fault of yours. Good recovery. And so he continues to be charming, and he does a little magic thing with a rose for Elena. And he's like, Bernardo, pick up your feet. And then he goes to sit his own thing. Well, then he gets invited to the table of the Dons, which is exactly what was the whole plan. And we get the political talk of Zorro, how there's going to be many more Z's carved into walls. And much like the Dark Knight trilogy, Bruce Wayne talking ill about Batman in order to throw people off, this is very much done by Alejandro. He's like, this Zorro creature probably wears the mask to hide his bald head and unsightly features. There are some who would call him heroism, a romantic illusion. Much like nobility, Elena, that is enough. And even Captain Love is there, and he's like, in my opinion, heroism is something to aspire to, not sneer at. And also, when he was introduced to Captain Love, the man who killed his brother, he's like, were you not the man who was chasing a legendary bandit? He was hardly legendary, so you caught him. It's only a matter of time. Well, the bandit might have escaped. The rest of us will certainly think twice before going to confessions. A nice joke at his expense and whatnot. And Captain Love continues to get made a fool of. Well, then he asks Elena for a dance. And while he is up there with the Dons, Diego's searching for clues, knocks out a guard and whatnot, and is searching for or sees a painting of Esperanza, and then has to hide because Don Luis is coming, and he grabs something from a chest. And as they're starting to leave, or as the Dons are starting to leave the table, uh, Alejandro goes down to dance with Elena, telling him that Raphael wants Captain Love back at the table. Magic. He's a witch. Burn him. And yes, it is good that he knew his limits. So he realizes that the Dons are leaving. So he's like, would you care to try something a little bit more robust? And then they do this very, have you heard of Zorro's Black Whip, 1944? It's serial about a female Zorro character called the Black Whip, played by Linda Sterling. No, I have not. I'll have to look for it sometime. And so he does this very exotic dance. And apparently this dance is not to be done with ladies in waiting and nobles, so to speak, because you see the very unhappy look on Raphael's face. Now you also see that Diego's watching him dance with his daughter, and he actually has a smile, knowing that this is her wild heart or wild nature playing through, which was much like her mother. And the dance concludes, and he's like, well, or as Raphael comes up, he's like, that's how they are dancing in Madrid these days. My apologies, Don Raphael. I need to catch my breath. Your daughter is a very spirited dancer. Basically, she's upset because he made it as if she led him on to do this dance. And he's like, spirited, thank you for putting it so delicately. And so she runs off, and he's like, I apologize if you were offended. Oh, no. She's young and impulsive, but her beauty is beyond compare. And so he is pissed off. He pissed off Don Raphael, but he wins him back with some charm. He's like, Don Raphael, it would be my great honor to introduce you and the Queen both at court next time you're in Spain. And so he finally wins him back over. He's like, come to the courtyard. I want to show you something. And what is that? A vision. Because he tells Raphael earlier, I am a man in search of a vision. You know? And so we then learn the plot of Montero. And he shows a map of the independent Republic of California, the ultimate plan of why he has returned. And Don Hector's not happy about this, but he does clap it and whatnot, because there's a deleted scene after this. After the scene that explains why he's kind of taken aback a little bit by this suggestion. And so he goes along clapping, and Don, or one of the other Dons, questioning, he's like, there's no doubt that what you have done has made us all wealthy men, but however, we should question your motives. Yesterday at the beach, you made us look like fools. Or he's like, that is absurd, Don Hector. I was merely playing to the crowd. And what are you doing now if not playing to the crowd? You are essentially inciting us to raise arms against Santa Anna when you know perfectly well we could never defeat his army. I'm not suggesting we fight him over California. I'm suggesting we buy it from him. Even if we combined all of our wealth, we could never buy this country from Santa Anna. I've already brokered a deal with him. You're living in a dream, Montero. Well, how about we share the same dream? And he shows him some gold with the Spanish seal. Come back here tomorrow, folks, and I will put all your doubts to rest. Now, the ending of that scene, which is extended in an unreleased deleted scene, shows Don Luis saying, he's like, you should have told me that the goal of this was, or that I would have to forfeit my profits in order for you to take power. He's like, this was always a plan, Don Luis. You were always my friend, and the whole point, our destiny was to rule. He's like, my destiny was to become rich. and wealthy, not to rule. I don't care about ruling. He's like, do you honestly think I would leave you out to dry, my friend? Once I rule California, you will be ruling at my side. It's like, all right. I could see why they deleted that scene. The dialogue was not really good. But we then see him, or the next day, they go to the mine, and you see just how evil these people are. That priest that helped Zorro that night is now a slave. You see kids enslaved working at this mine. You see Three Finger Jack is also there. You also see or learn the plot from Don Raphael. All these bars have been stamped with the Spanish seal, so Santa Anna will think they have come from Spain. Do you see the plan now, gentlemen? In a few days' time, we will buy this country from Santa Anna, and we will buy it with gold dug from his own lands. So that's the plan. And then we get Three Finger Jack. He's like, or he shames the Dons. He's like, and Captain Love is like, he's nothing but a common thief. As common as they come, Peckerwood. But I ain't nothing compared to you, gentlemen. I steal gold. I steal money. You steal people's lives. So damn you, and damn the horse that brung you. And so he basically does a suicide mission. He knows he's going to get killed. And so Captain Love shoots the man again as he's flying through the air. Well, he does, or Alejandro does have some decency, and he recognizes him and whatnot, and he goes up to him as he dies. Three Finger Jack looks at him, recognizes him before he dies, and then dies, or just before he dies, with a smile. And Alejandro asks him, is there something amusing, Captain Love? Strange, really. This is the second time I shot this man while he was flying through the air. And then he gets invited to the hacienda with no, or not taking no for an answer from Captain Love. And during this time, we cut to a scene between Elena and Diego. Sorry, lost the name for a second there. And she talks with him about how he, or about Don Alejandro and how long he's served them and whatnot. And he's like, it's as if he is two different men. And so he lets his heart out a little bit, forgetting that he is playing a part. You look so much like your mother. Oops, how would you know that? Well, I don't see that much of Don Raphael in you. And she doesn't. I know he wishes that he wishes I was more like her. She was very proper, very appropriate and whatnot. But I don't believe him, really. She was more like you, perhaps. And she describes a time when she was little, how she would always ride her horse out at night because the departed can see you in the moonlight. And she asks him, she's like, I know this is strange, but have we met before? No, why would you think that? It's strange. Your voice is just so familiar, but I haven't been to Spain since before you were born. Of course. Well, it's a very pleasant voice. So now she recognizes Flowers. Bernardo's voice is familiar. So it breaks his heart that he has to lie to her still, because you're not going to be able to explain to her the truth really until you have enough evidence. Well, we then get to Captain Love, who is talking with Alejandro. And hold on one moment. Sorry, I had to pick something up. And so we then see that Captain Love has very twisted tastes. He has Joaquin Murrieta's head in a jar. And he's gauging Don Alejandro's reaction. He wants to know, or he knows that Don Alejandro is not on the up and up, but he can't prove it yet. So then he pulls out another one, which is Three Finger Jack's hand that's missing two fingers. And he tells him, he's like, "You're a very sick person, Captain Love." And he tells him, heads in water jars, hands in wine glasses must strike you as a bit odd, right? Well, for one thing, you ought to fire your housekeeper. And a nice little playful joke, which he laughs, and he's like, "So who is he?" "An enemy. He has a brother out there that will share his same fate. Well, I wish you luck. To your health." And he takes a sip, and he's like, "Murrieta's brother or not, you are more than what you pretend to be." "Well, maybe I will see myself in what or through your eyes one day, Captain Love." And he leaves, but he leaves very stricken, very angry, where he snaps his cane over his knee because Captain Love has just basically showed him what happened to his brother. And I gotta say, if you're gonna drink water from a jar that has a dude's head in it, that's gotta be seriously twisted, man. Like, extremely twisted. Drop something. Ugh. So we then see him back at the lair, which is and he's talking to Diego, and Diego's like, "Can you find your way back to the mine?" "No, all the carriages the carriage windows were all covered. He doesn't even trust his own dons. Neither would I. But we can't waste time." And he's like, "All the people," or "That's a good way to get dysentery." "Yeah, I know, right?" And so he's telling him, he's like, "You must find your way back to, or you must go to Montero's hacienda, break into the chest in his study." And he's like, "How can I, or the people at the mine are dying, and all I can think of is Captain Love. He will come into your circle soon enough. You need not chase him." Well, this is a sensitive moment for him. He's like, "I miss my brother, sir. Your brother is dead." And Anthony Hopkins, he knows that, or he delivers this in such a way that is cold, but he has to be firm with Alejandro. He knows he's having an emotional problem right now, but he has to force him back into focus. And he tells him, he's like, "Your brother is dead. We lose the ones we love. We cannot change that. Put it aside." "How? How can I do what is needed when all I feel is hate?" And this is a great, great line. "You hide it with this." And he holds up the Mask of Zorro. So we now know that we're about to finally see Zorro proper. And we see that Captain Love and Raphael are planning the whole thing with Santa Anna, the deal and whatnot. And he's like, so they're about to toast their success until the alarm bell goes off. And then we see a tribute to the movie The Crow with a flaming Z in the field. And this extremely worries Raphael. He's like, "Oh, shit." And you see that there's nobody in the field during the blade, or from a distance. But then you see that Anthony Hopkins is in the field by the top arc of the Z, or by the top line of the Z. And you then see him smile and walk away. "Did you send men to the hills? Double the guard at the wall?" Yes, of course. I mean, what are we so worried about? It's just one man." "It's not just one man, damn it, it's Zorro. And he knows about the mine. Otherwise, he wouldn't be here tonight. How could he possibly? No, it doesn't matter how. You don't seem to grasp the situation, Captain. If Santa Anna learns that we've or that we're paying him off with gold dug from his own lands. He'll have us butchered like cattle. So we destroy the evidence. We bury or set explosives, bury the mine. And the workers, we destroy all evidence, Don Raphael. No witnesses. You see just how evil Captain Love is. What the lengths he's willing to go to in order to succeed in their endeavor. And I dropped it again. God dang it. There it is. And so you also see that Don Raphael is actually disturbed by this implication of what they're willing to do. And he's like, make sure those documents are sealed up. Well, during this whole time, you see that Anthony Hopkins Zorro is in there and grabs the map. So they, or as Captain Love is looking through the documents, he calls for the guards and turns back again. Well, there's Zorro, blade in his chest, and he's like, the much debated Zorro. No, the legendary Zorro. So you then see the two guards come in, he has them drop their weapons, come forward, stop, turn, face the window. Now bend down and touch your toes. And they look at the captain, bend over. Would you excuse me, Captain Love? Thank you. Kicks them out the window. And then he gives Captain Love his sword so that he could test his skill. I mean, let's be frank, folks. He could easily, or he wants to know how he measures up against Captain Love right now. So he tests the waters with him, and he he manages to knock him down a few times and whatnot. And then Raphael comes in, and it's a whole different game with Raphael. He's far more skilled, and you actually see that Zorro's on the defensive. And as you clearly, or then you see how skillful Zorro is, even on the defensive. He grabs up two swords, and he's blocking each of them skillfully, then flips out of the scene. And I just feel that there is stunt doubles doing the more acrobatic parts for the scene. Now, if it is Antonio Banderas doing these, great. I think because Don Raphael was evil but still had his honor, Captain Love has no such thing. It is entirely possible. However, you do see that his personal feelings will overtake any sense of honor he has. But anyway, we see the fight in the courtyard where he's fighting off more guards, and then he's fighting Captain Love again and Raphael, and then he escapes them, and you see Elena was watching the whole thing. And after Zorro takes off, she comes around the corner to look up after him with a smile. So when he goes into the stable, she's there waiting for him. And the fight between Elena, or Catherine Zeta-Jones, and Antonio Banderas is so freaking great. He's like, I don't have the time to give you the proper instruction. I've had the proper instruction since I was 4. The way that she shows her, not arrogance, but her confidence. Her eyes are just, she acts through her eyes and her expression, and she does so very well. And when she is fighting him and sparring with him, essentially, you see how focused she really is. How she is having so much fun with this battle, with this fight. And it's not even a real serious fight until they take off the hat and she takes off her outer robe. And he then cuts a slit in her gown, and she's like, not bad. And then he ties her, or they get into a blade lock, and he pulls her down, not bad at all. Gives her a kiss, throwing her off guard, then slits the arm or the arm cover from her robe. He's like, and then she starts getting angrier and angrier, but he then kisses her again, but then she actually scores a disarmament, and she's pissed off at him, and she's happy she's holding it like this, and backs him up, and he's like, this will make it a little bit more difficult, senorita. But when he moves forward, she goes back and extends out. That's actually very smart, because you don't want your opponent to get any closer. So you hold, or this is called holding him at bay. Well, it also allows distance to be gained by Zorro. So he then disarms her, and she goes for his sword that she disarmed him of, and he catches up too quickly. So he has her up. Don't move. Or just carves things here and there. And woof, or one final slash, pulls back, turns his head. Her dress just falls, and she's topless, but her hair is covering her breasts. So it's like, oh boy. And so she grabs his hat, holding it in front of her chest. Do you surrender? Never. But I may scream. I understand. I sometimes have that effect on people. And so they share a very passionate lip and tongue locking kiss. And he takes her sword, spear throws it to a distance to get it away from her so she can't pursue. And he grabs his sword, puts it back into his sheath, walks away. She's smiling because she's kind of taken with him. And then he comes back, excuse me, pulls his hat, and then he says goodbye to her properly, bowing out. And she hears somebody else coming, so she grabs her gown to cover herself, and it's her father. What are you doing here? What happened? Zorro, I fought him and he left. He left. Did you recognize him? No, but he was young and vigorous. He was very vigorous, father. Vigorous. Yes. It's like she can't hide it anymore, that she's kind of taken with them. So then we see the chase of the horse chase. Now, this is, from what I read, the only time that Antonio Banderas didn't do his own stunt, where he jumps from a rock onto the moving horses, and where he is on the same horse as another guard, and then he throws the guard off. He's like, and throws that guy off. That, from what I hear, is the only stunt that he didn't do, because he wanted to do as many stunts as he could to make it more authentic. Now, the chase is very cool. He flips himself over, so he's riding backwards on one horse, knocks another guy out. And you see that Armando Garcia, the incapable corporal, is leading the pursuit after Tornado. And he's trying to keep Tornado in sight, but he can't see that nobody's on the damn horse, you know? So he then gets back on the other horse. He jumps on the back of two other horses, 1 foot on each horse, and knocks two guys out, bam, and rides them over Garcia's head. Garcia looks back, seeing that there's other horses, the empty horses chasing after. And he's like, what honor? And then he runs into a down log that Zorro leaps over. And I don't care how tough a person is, suspension of disbelief or not, man. The impact of that, where he slams chest first into this wood at that speed, like 30 or 40 miles an hour, you're dead. There's no way you're alive after that. But you hear him going, and falling off. And then he gets back to the lair. And the score is very repetitive. I love how in each scene, I can't stress enough how well the score is. The nice little back and forths with the score, how they really focus on a more Hispanic vibe with the score, but you also get the more romanticized strings and horns. but you also get the more Hispanic horns and strumming of strings and whatnot to really add to the score and authenticity of a Hispanic score. And when during different scenes, like the scene between Catherine Zeta-Jones and Antonio Banderas fighting in the stable, it really is a more pleasant score that gives a more Latina or Hispanic sound to it. And they really do crank up the castanets and the maracas as well with them, or with the score as well. I mean, they really pull out some great music by James Horner in this. So he returns and he's like, "Here's the canyon. Here's the mine, and the plan is set. Basically, I'm not going with you." "What? I'm not going with you. I have a personal matter to see to. Be put off." He's like, "Well, what about the people? There's nothing more I can do for them." "You mean nothing you will do? I gave my life to them, and in return, I lost everything. My wife was murdered before my eyes, and my daughter was stolen from me to be raised by my mortal enemy." "Montero?" "Elena, she's your daughter." He finally puts it together. "Yes, she was. So you're going to take your revenge?" "No, I'm going to take my daughter. And don't pretend she doesn't mean anything to you." "But she does. But you taught me to look past my own personal feelings, remember?" "Was that all a lie? All the training, the swords, the wise words, for what? To smile in the face of my brother's killer while you go make your own plans?" And he tells him, "Alejandro, I've taught you everything you need to know to survive. But also the people need Zorro." And he's like, "But what about Zorro? Or what about California? What about the people? They'll still have Zorro. I must now look to my own heart." And, well, we get a return to the hacienda of Montero. And Captain Love comes in. He's like, "I got every side or every inch of the countryside covered. If he shows himself, you all right? You found the map? Or do you have the map? We'll find it. Is your army ready to fight Santa Anna?" "No, sir." "Then why are you asking me if I'm all right?" "Of course I'm not all right." It's like, are you serious right now, man? We have to think worst case scenario. That's the wonderful thing about this villain. He's thinking worst case scenario because he has to cover his own ass. He realizes that everything hinges on Santa Anna not knowing that this gold is his. So he's panicking right now. And he's like, "Well, what are you saying, Don Raphael?" "What I'm saying, Captain, is I think that my horse could run this army better than you." So when he goes to walk off, Captain Love tries again. He's like, "I said I'll find him. That means I will." Whatever. "Perhaps I can save you the trouble." And he puts his sword, or it's Diego has a sword right up against Montero's throat. He's like, "Perhaps I could save you the trouble." Well, as the captain is reaching for his pistol, he's like, "Go on, reach for it, Captain." Basically letting him know that if you pull that gun, Montero's dead. I mean, all it takes is just simple 1-inch thrust, dead. So we then see that Montero's like, "Who are you?" And he told him, he's like, "I told you a long time ago, Raphael, you'll never be rid of me." And he pulls down the neck of his shirt, revealing the scarred Z. And he realizes who it is. De La Vega. "You were not the Zorro I saw last night, but that was your master Don Alejandro, wasn't it?" Now, there's an interesting thing, folks. Remember that Diego told Alejandro, Raphael believes himself to be a true nobleman. He will never look a servant in the eye. Well, apparently he's not foolish. He does recognize that this is, or that most likely this was what was going on. So, but it does leave the question, how did he figure it out, you know? So he says yes, and there are many of those who will proudly wear the Mask of Zorro. Well, anyway, it's little consequence. Events have been set in motion that you cannot stop. I'm not here to stop you. So then we get to the crux of it. Call for Elena. Oh shit. Call her. Captain, bring my daughter to me. And he tells him, you cannot imagine how much I have waited for this, Raphael. Night and day, 20 long years. Really, I haven't given you a second thought. If I die, De La Vega, the truth dies with me. We'll see. Well, she's then in there asking Bernardo, what the hell are you doing? Tell her, Raphael. Tell her who her real father is. And he maintains his delusion so completely. This unfortunate man lost a daughter once, and it's driven him mad, and he seeks to claim you as his own. And because he's lying, Diego turns the sword against his neck. And so he's like, tell her how her mother died. Your wife or your daughter is gone, De La Vega. You cannot have mine. Well, in an earlier scene I didn't cover, she's in a marketplace where her old nanny recognizes her as the daughter of Diego and Esperanza de la Vega, and tells her this, and tells her that she used to hang flowers by her crib when she was little. And Elena, not knowing how to feel about this, can't accept the gift that the woman tried to give her. It's a really sad scene, and it's played extremely well with Catherine Zeta-Jones. But this scene also pays off later at this point in the movie, where she's like, De La Vega? A woman in town, she told me, Diego De La Vega? And she's like, wait, father? His name is of no consequence. Well, she then decides to go further into what she had heard. I was told my niñera, her nanny, used to hang something in my crib. Yes, she had her hang fresh flowers. And as now, in the beginning of the movie, Raphael remembers that the person that he killed for shooting Esperanza pulled his pistol at the last moment after seeing an opening, after there being a pause and whatnot. Well, in the same moment, in this moment, when Diego is saying he had her hang fresh flowers, or she had her hang fresh flowers, she pulls the captain pulls his pistol again, but instead of just standing there this time, Raphael goes straight for the captain to stop the pistol from shooting her. And then she gets in front of the guards who is pointing the guns at her, or at Diego, because they heard a gun go off, and he pushes her, or he nudges her aside. Let us finish it, Raphael. Let us finish what we started the night Esperanza died. Drop your sword, and he's still maintaining this bullshit lie. Drop your sword, or I'll have no choice but to have you shot, even in the presence of my daughter. And she asks him, please, and he drops the sword, and he tells her they were flowers, Romagna, the scent that she recognized when she first came ashore. And he turns to Raphael. He's like, Raphael, she knows. Now, this scene where she's watching him being let off is actually extended in an unreleased, deleted scene where she actually goes to him and she's like, what, or is it true? And Diego doesn't want to hear it. He's like, just go to your room. Is that man my father? That man is insane. Go to your room. I will not, or go to your damn room. He just wants her gone to be away from all of this because his whole world is now unraveling. There's a chance that Santa Anna's about to find out that his gold, or that gold that he's about to be paid, is his. There's the mine that they need to go and destroy to bury the evidence. All this shit is going on, and Raphael just wants her gone right now. So he goes to ride off while Diego's held in a room instead of a cell, and she goes to rescue him. And I love the look. It's not a look of care. It's a look of, I'm about to trust you with what you have said. I don't know what to feel right now. She is right now, and her own emotions are in turmoil. So when she rescues him, she doesn't give him a smile. She doesn't say or call him father or anything. She just stands there looking at him, not knowing how to feel. So when they get to the mine, or cut to the mine, Zorro's there helping a guy who just collapsed from exhaustion with water, and does the same thing that he did with, or that Zorro did with him when he was a kid. Shh. That nice little mirror of a scene from the beginning. And then we see they're loading up the rest of the gold, and they're tying the rest of the fuses, and everybody gets locked up, and they light the fuse. Well, Zorro shows up and is in, or as Captain Love rides off, getting ready for the meetup with Santa Anna. Well, he then hears the gunshots and whatnot when Zorro shows up and is causing ruckus. Well, he comes back and he puts out the fuse that he just lit to blow the mine. This whole scene is spectacular with its pacing. It's cut perfectly balanced in a way that shows you the immediacy, the action of all the different angles, where Raphael is about to shoot Zorro, and then Diego comes in, tips up the rifle at the last moment, and they get into a fight themselves, where Raphael realizes he's been betrayed by Elena because she's there too. You see that Zorro is having fun until he runs into Captain Love, and I absolutely love this scene, Captain Love, and then I absolutely love where it's the Captain Love versus Alejandro Zorro, where he pulls the sword and goes like this, where the light casts across the blade, and then, or the sunlight just glints across the blade like that. And it is so well shot, folks. And so he tells me, he's like, just one question. How would you like your remains to be displayed? And he's going all out against the captain. This is the man who killed his brother. He's ready. This is his vengeance. And it's really a nice back and forth between them. And also, Diego scores a disarmament against Montero. And he's like, now I'm free to kill you. But because Elena is still kind of torn between the father she grew up with and the father she knows is her real father, she stops Diego. Well, this causes Montero to pull a pistol and hold it against her throat. It's like, drop your sword, drop it. And she's scared now because she just realized that her father's about to kill her. Well, he's still hanging on to the delusion, folks. Do you really think I would have killed my own child? And he ends up shooting Diego in the left shoulder. He's right-hand swordsman, so he's still able to fight, but he is dying. DJ Odyssey, good to see you. How you doing, buddy? So she gets knocked down. I don't know how she gets knocked out, but she gets knocked down. And then she gets up to see the workers are all locked up, and he's still fighting with, or Raphael is still fighting with Diego, and Diego scores another stab right on the left shoulder of Raphael, the same area where he got him 20 years ago. Financially recovered from the wild weekend, or finally recovered from the wild weekend. That's good, man. So he tells her, Elena, get them out. So she goes to get that, or to free the prisoners. So she actually has a role. So she's not just a damsel in distress, you know. That's the one thing I really like about this movie. Elena is not a damsel in distress. She's too much like her father and her mother, where she's not a damsel. That's one of the great things about this movie. She is a strong female, which is great. Nothing, or not like these pathetic masculine female characters that they have nowadays. She's actually one that can carry her own weight, do exactly what the men can do, but also knows that she has her own purpose as well. That is feminine as well. She still maintains her femininity. That's one of the best things about this movie. And so the fights continue. Zorro increases the pressure in a pressure shack and causes it to explode, which causes the fuse to get relit. And the fight continues in earnest between Captain Love and Alejandro, while the fight between Montero and Diego continues. It's all really well done. So by the time that the fights are concluding, everything is concluding, where you also see Alejandro carve an M into the captain's face, and he's like, M for Marietta. And he tells him, 2 men, 1 death. It's like, I don't get that line. I really don't. Marietta. I don't get it. I mean, maybe it means 2 men, 1 death. Who knows? But it makes me wonder. I'd have to look up well, I could do it now, really. So let's actually look it up. The definition of Marietta. Marietta. Definition. Definition, not definition. Marietta. All right. What is the meaning of Marietta? Named after Spanish-born Ezekiel Marietta, who is entranced by the area's natural beauty. Okay, so there's no real name, or there's no real definition for the name. Now, actually, upon looking up this thing, there was a Joaquin Marietta, and a California Ranger named Harry Love was assigned to track down Marietta and was said to have brought his head in for the bounty. Isn't that interesting? So they used an actual historical event in this film. So that is pretty interesting. I think he means 2 people dying in the same way. Okay, that could work. But anyway, so they get on top of the gold area, or the gold on a riser that was coming up, and Zorro's lost his sword, but when the captain goes to swing, his sword gets stuck in the wood, or the wood structure above him, and he gets disarmed and then stabbed in the chest here. Now, there is a small mistake here where you see him stabbed. It's the full length of the sword that's stabbing him. Well, like right here. But then when they show the top shot of Captain Love, the sword is run through him out the back, but the full length of the sword is in front of him in that moment. So when he drops to his knees, the sword is then has run him through, apparently. So there is a continuity issue there. And just as that fight ends, Montero disarms a tired out Diego, who's succumbing to his injury. Well, he's also next to the gold and the carriage that horses were strapped to, but ended up getting cut freed. And the brake was on for the carriage, the handled brake. Well, because Montero's feet are in the straps, lift up the brake. There you go. He's now dead. Now the gold and Montero go over the edge where Captain Love is, and Antonio Banderas uses the whip to get out of there. And that's the end of Captain Love and the end of Montero. They are finally dead. So now the rest of the mission is get the damn people out of there before the fuse reaches the powder to blow up the mine. Well, Elena's been shooting locks except for when she's out, so she's trying to smash the lock with the pistols, except that she can't. So Alejandro shows up with a big ass hammer and he does it. And they get them all out. You have your nice little hero walk after the mine blows. And when this mine actually goes up with all the big fire and pyrotechnics, you're hearing lion roars, you're hearing tiger roars, you're hearing leopard snarls and leopard roars and whatnot. And it's like, what is with the big cats and using them to enhance pyrotechnic sound, you know? It just really, you hear those animals in the frickin' explosive roars. It really is fun to listen to. So then we get them going to help Diego as he's dying, and he affirms to her, he's like, the world is a strange place to have found you at last, only to lose you again, because he is dying. And he tells Alejandro, he's like, is it finished? Yes, it's finished. Not for Zorro. There will be more problems, more battles to fight. It is your curse and your destiny. And then he lets them know, or he has them join hands together, letting him know that he would actually approve of their union if they so desired. And as he dies, which we then get to a narration from Alejandro, where he's talking to baby Joaquin, his son, about how Zorro, the legendary hero, was gone, and that people came from far and wide giving him a hero's funeral, and that when Zorro is needed again, he will be back. And there's another deleted scene that was unreleased where Santa Anna actually comes in to see Alejandro and Elena and all the workers at the mine walking away from it. Now, the guy who plays Santa Anna is the same actor who played in Fast 5, who played the guy that's running basically the rich dude, the villain in South America, the rich guy. He plays Santa Anna, and he's looking for Montero because apparently he got his hands on the map, and it was Diego who sent him the map before he confronted Diego. Or it was Diego who gave him the map before he confronted Montero. So, yeah. Santa Anna was ready to kill Montero at this point. Now, because this scene was never put in the movie, there was dialogue from that scene, which is put in the final cut of the film, where Elena is talking with her now husband. She's like, or where he tells her, "Where would I find this man, this Zorro? He has been many men, but he has loved you as all of them." That is actually a line from when she's talking to him in the unused scene. She's like, "You've lived many lives, but I don't," or "What is your name, really?" "My name is Alejandro Murrieta." And he comes clean to her. "I used to be a horse thief and whatnot. But the name Zorro is, or there are many names for Zorro, and he's loved you as all of them." So when he's walking out of the story where she goes to put a fussing baby back to sleep, he walks away, and you get the fade to Zorro, like in the beginning of the movie, walking away, but as Zorro pulls his sword and he carves the flaming Z, like he did in the beginning of the movie. And then we get the roll credits. Now, this movie is very good. I like it. I love it. Objectively, this film is, I would say, a solid 7.5. This movie has its problems, a couple of choreography issues, writing issues. The acting of the main cast is superb. You have some parts or some dialogue that could have been better, but for the most part, this movie is extremely well done. In fact, I'll actually bump it up to a solid 8. Subjectively, this movie is a 9.9 out of 10. There's a couple of things that were kind of like, eh. But for the most part, I absolutely love the film. As for moviegoer, where it's not being broken down, it's a 10 out of 10. I absolutely love the film. The Mask of Zorro is a movie that I love. I've loved Zorro growing up. I love the show growing up, especially when Andre the Giant came in a couple of episodes of the show. It's like, or when Montero's like, "Go away, I'm busy." Fucking Andre the Giant just busts through the door. "You're not anymore." It's like, holy crap. Andre the Giant, man, he was just so great. He's missed. But anyway, folks, thank you so much. Jack of all casuals, DJ Odyssey, Price is Right reviews, Cult Classic Cage, Cassie, thank you for coming in. Cayman Rider, Cannoli Sasquatch, Hardwick Bentho. Thank you everyone for coming in and supporting the stream. The hints for next week's mystery review for number 60. Let's see here. It will be Guilty Pleasure. It's a guilty pleasure of mine. Of a heavily flawed film with a perfect ending. Now, I've actually talked about this over the last few weeks. So if you've been paying attention, you'll know exactly what it is. But as for another hint, I did movie discussions on the franchise that it's a part of. So, with that out of the way, stay tuned for tomorrow evening, where I am doing another guest choice review, this time with Janet from Another Planet. She and I will be talking about The Incredibles and how it's a movie that is meant for both adults and children. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. You all know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. What did you think of The Mask of Zorro? Did you like it? Did you not? What were your favorite parts? Let me know all that stuff, folks. Thank you to Jack of All Casuals for sharing out the links. And this has been Orange Hat Reviews. Have a wonderful day, everybody. And always remember, stay humble.